I remember we had already gotten the product from my daughter who lived in the US at that time. And after a month, we just decided to go to Nashville. And we actually thought that we were going to learn about weight loss. And when we came to the event and heard all of these stories that had nothing to do with weight loss, we were just like, wow, what is this product? And in Norway, a lot of the people that contact us are people interested in weight loss, in fat loss. But we have more and more people finding out the other benefits of the ketones, like the extra energy, the better mood, the better focus. And people in Norway, most of them have never heard of ketones. And I am a nurse. My specialty is psychiatric healthcare. So I am really impressed with all the stories of people who loses weight much easier than they have ever done before. But the things that really, really interest me is how the ketones affect our brain. If you could start with telling your story.
Absolutely. So I am, let's take it back a little bit. So 4.5 years ago, I was in a really dark place. I had been trying to get clean for 2 years at the time, and I kept relapsing and relapsing. Hopefully that word translates. But I kept relapsing and was not having any success getting into recovery. I'd been trying for 2 years to get into recovery. And so I was in recovery for about a year. And I was noticing that there was a lot of negative effects on my brain. I just wasn't experiencing joy like I used to. Things just didn't make me as happy as they used to. It felt really, I like to say, like numb and dark. I had no energy. I really wasn't able to focus on anything. I started fights with my partner all the time. And I just was a really nasty person to be around, to be totally honest. I was introduced to ketones, and I thought that I was given a life sentence in my recovery. I thought that that was just my punishment for, using drugs, was that I was going to have a really terrible life for the rest of my life. And that was not the case. I shook up my very, very first packet of ketones, and I didn't think that anything changed until I got home at the end of the day and I had gone to work. I had cooked dinner. I had cleaned the house. I had done the dishes. I had, I was going, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and I still had energy. And just as I continued to drink ketones more and more, I realized that I was bringing the life back into the life and the joy and the light back into my life again. So that's kind of my ketone story. And it really helped. It helped with a lot of the after effects of addiction, just to be totally honest. In America specifically, we're very undereducated. It is treated as a crime here when it's a mental health issue. And so basically addiction is very rooted in trauma, and that's 9 times out of 10 why somebody becomes addicted is because the drugs help you feel better, right? And the drugs help take away some pain or some trauma. And that's usually why people get addicted. It's not because of whatever reasons people think. But what happens when you use drugs, especially in my story, so I specifically used uppers, which release a huge hit of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. So the drugs that I used would release all of these happy chemicals into my brain. So that's what my brain got used to. So when I wasn't using the drugs, things don't feel as good because my brain is used to huge hits of those happy chemicals. And so when I got into recovery, I was no longer getting those hits. And so that's why everything felt so dark. That's why everything felt so negative. And that's kind of the huge effect that it has on your brain, and why a lot of people struggle in recovery, because they don't know how to cope with the after effects of what your brain is used to. I was already in recovery. I was already clean when I started drinking ketones. I had been clean for about a year. At this point, I've been clean for 4.5 years, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm going to be really honest with you. I don't know the science and why the ketones helps with the better mood. All I know is that I am a happier person when I drink ketones, and that darkness that I thought I was going to have to live with for the rest of my life is not there. I do not follow a keto diet. I call it a Cheeto diet because I do not eat keto at all, but I am in ketosis because of the ketones.
And I know your story also, other than that you have had an addiction. So I know that you have gone from being an addict, I don't know what you did when you were an addict, to being a really, really successful businesswoman.
So yeah, I was, when I was in active addiction, I was living in what Americans call the trap house. So I lived with my drug dealer. I was accruing tons and tons and tons of debt because I was making about $800 a month, US dollars, and my rent was $400. So that was literally half of my income. And the other half was to feed my drug habit, right? So I was putting groceries, gas, bills, everything on credit cards. So in the few short years that I was living on my own, I was only living on my own in active addiction for about 2 years. But I accrued over $20,000 in debt.
Do you think you would be where you are today without ketones?
No. Really, that was when I made the decision, like I'm done. Like I'm done with the drugs. I'm done. I want to be better. I want to create a life. I want to create a legacy. And life after that became a whirlwind. I left an abusive, narcissistic relationship. I moved across the country into a luxury apartment. I drive a free luxury vehicle. I have not paid my own car payment in 2.5 years. And my life looks so different than it did.
And how young are you today?
So I am 26 years old right now.
That is pretty impressive.
Thank you.
I don't think there are a lot of 26-year-olds who had an addiction but is living their dream life now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I forget sometimes that I'm only 26.
So I'm just going to say thank you so much for taking the time and telling all the Norwegian about your experience with ketones and addiction. And I know there will be a lot of people watching this interview with you and be really, really excited.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you.